welcome and thank you for attending this morning. Today we're going to talk a little bit about the state of field sales, the future of field sales, and real quick I'd like to introduce a couple of folks here. First off, my name is Matthew Sniff. I am the founder of a company called Map My Customers, and Map My Customers believes in enabling sales teams to work more productively wherever they are, and to fill the gaps in their day with useful activities in the field. This morning we also have both Victor Castillo and Rob Sherman with us from Ferguson Enterprises. Now, Ferguson is a longtime customer of Map My Customers, and from the beginning, Ferguson has been proactive in adjusting their sales strategies and tactics to the new environment in the life of COVID, right? We wanted to sit down with both Victor and Rob to hear about how they've implemented process for their respective sales teams that they manage, and see how they've been adapting to everything that is going on. So Victor, I'll flip it over to you first and then to Rob. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do at Ferguson.
Hi, Victor Castillo. I've been in the MRO industry for going on 25 years, since 1997. I came from 17 years at HG Supply and roles from inside sales to national accounts. And so I've kind of seen things from a different perspective as far as sales leadership. Been with Ferguson now for going on 6 years. I manage the, Southern California North region, everything north of Orange County all the way up to the city of Ojai. Thank you.
Awesome. And then Rob.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Rob Sherman. So been with Ferguson now for 21 years, straight out of college. So done all sorts of things with Ferguson, from the plumbing side and the branch to working for headquarters, doing acquisitions, product management, and then did outside sales for a few years on the HVAC side and branch management for HVAC, and then doing area sales management for the facility supply side now for 4 years. So I cover Southern California, just south of Victor. So Orange County, and then out to the desert, and then down through the border, to the border through San Diego. So appreciate your time today.
Awesome. And we're glad to have both of you guys, Rob and Victor. So just want to lay out the agenda real quick as we go through this morning's conversation. To start, we're going to have a live poll, right? We're going to have several of these throughout the presentation. And so after every poll, we'll give everybody a chance to respond. We will start into discussion around the topic, and then we'll go to the next poll, and so on and so forth. We'll hear throughout today's conversation Ferguson's story, as well as trends and how both Rob and Victor see outside sales changing. So it should be a good time. And with that, we will launch the first poll. And we'll wait a second here for it to appear. All right, so the first poll is, have you made any adjustments to which customers you are focusing on? The options that we have here are you spending more time with fewer, bigger accounts than before COVID? Are you spending more time with more volume of smaller accounts? Have you not made any adjustments? Or have you just made other adjustments not based on size? Victor and Rob, whoever wants to start first, would love to hear your thoughts on this topic.
Yeah, I think with our team we've been fortunate. We've been a steadily growing business, and I think the change that we've seen through COVID hasn't necessarily been the customer base changing. I think it's more what the customer base is buying. I think that's been the biggest change. So we had a big emphasis on contractors and remodelers. And that was a big portion of our business. And we've seen that as projects have kind of stalled out or even been canceled, we've seen that business drop. But we've seen an increase in other customers of ours that maybe had only been buying certain categories from us, now looking to us for other items that they hadn't purchased in the past. We've secured agreements with companies that we never thought we would ever sell anything to but plumbing. And so I think that's what the change we've seen is more of the type of product that the customers are buying, and not necessarily, at least with us, the customer base.
That's really interesting, Victor. Why do you think that is, that they've changed their buying habits?
I think it's just need. we do a lot of business with property management companies, and a lot of their day-to-day needs have been on work orders and things of that nature. As that business has shifted, a lot of times they aren't necessarily working on those day-to-day work orders. They're working on an emergency basis, so that need has really dropped significantly. But in the same realm, they're looking to offer protection to not only their residents, but also their staff and everyone who comes into the office. And so they're looking for different needs. And that goes along the same lines with some of the other manufacturers that we've done some business with. They're looking to protect their associates. In a lot of cases, those are the needs that are coming to the forefront.
Yeah, yeah. And to comment on, the focusing of customers. So there has been a little bit of a shift, but it really isn't determined by the size of the customer per se. You can imagine in a COVID environment, cold calls haven't been going off very well. So trying to call on customers where you don't really have a great relationship, number one is, do you want to be that person walking in there in an instance where people are already a little uncomfortable, already feeling a little, whether it's insecure in regards to safety. So we've been focusing a lot on customers where we already have that relationship, where they're already buying some, right? They might just be purchasing some plumbing here or some, appliance parts there, and working that relationship that's already been established, where they already feel comfortable, where we already have that, history, and trying to get into some other areas where they might not be purchasing. So maybe a little bit of a shift there, going with customers that we have that history with, where we can really feel more comfortable and they feel more comfortable since they know us, not necessarily the size of the customer.
And so, Rob, you mentioned that it's been a difficult environment, cold calling. Do you have reps on your team who are still trying to go out in the field and hunt, or, not necessarily in the field, but make calls to hunt down new business, or are they almost entirely focused on managing existing customers?
So no, there's still a cold calling and building the business effort, right? It's not going to be knocking on the door saying, hey, I'm with Ferguson. It's going to be more of phone calls, text messages, emails, and we have those contact information, and trying to show the value that we bring, whether it's new products, whether it's COVID related items, whether it's, hey, we now have these in stock and we know everyone needs them. Would this help, right? So no, we're still doing it. It's just more of a focus on the customers where we have that relationship, so we can, help them out with safety, with, ways to help improve their properties.
And have you seen the messaging change, or your pitch to clients, whether it be existing or new? Right? Has that changed at all? Because, it's probably changed because of COVID somehow, but I'm curious, Ferguson, how have you guys adapted?
Yeah, for sure. I know Victor has a response for that.
Yeah, I was going to say, a lot of what our customers are needing right now is PPE and COVID related. So our marketing, everything has changed because we have the products that they're needing at the moment. And our purchasing group, fortunately, has been great at being proactive and trying to get the product in as quickly as possible to fill the need. And so we've actually, I think sometimes our reps are tired of hearing PPE, because it seems to be what is making up our sales currently, because that's the need that is out there. And like I said earlier, people aren't doing the day-to-day maintenance as much. So we're having to target the need that they have. And right now the need is that PPE product.
And when you think about, sort of how your reps are planning, right, and structuring their day a little bit differently, how do they check in with the client base, and how do they think about being productive? Because of course, now I'm assuming that not a lot of them are out making calls in person anymore.
It really varies, and every rep is different. I think we've found different things that technology helps, for sure. I think we've used Map My Customers to make sure that we're tracking everything. But I think it's also a situation where we've had to find other tools. I know that some of our reps have been using the Reach app, which is gives them the ability to group text their client base and basically let them know they're coming out there.
And so do you have customers who have no visit policies in place, or how do you guys know which customers are open or not open? And how do you decide, your team decide, Victor, whether to go out into the field or not?
So basically what we've been doing is, so we released our team members out in the field. It has been a few weeks ago now. But number one, the number one mandate is safety, right? It's all about making sure you have the proper PPE, that you're social distancing, that our customers have the proper PPE. So if you have and then setting up appointments, right? We're not just walking into properties, hey, we're here, how are things going? You're setting hard appointments so everyone's aware. You're giving the customer the opportunity to say, hey, it's not a good time, let's do it another time, right? Because you have to respect their needs and their comfortability with COVID, with the safety. Some customers don't want to see face-to-face, and then we talk over phone or email or texts. So it's feeling out the customer. Again, if you have a history, again, we've been focusing on those customers that have been purchasing. So we know a little bit. It's easier for them to take the phone calls, take the emails, and then just asking the right questions to see if a face-to-face sales call is good. And then, set appointments. You go there, proper PPE. We have sales reps that have samples of the face masks, and sometimes you go on a call and the customer doesn't have a face mask on. So it's, you're not, hey, look what I got. It's a Ferguson face mask here for you. And they get it and they put it on. Oh, great. So, again, it's all about safety is number one, and our sales reps know that. And then respecting the safety and the opinions regarding, COVID with their customers. So some customers are all for it. Some customers aren't. You just got to feel it out.
Gotcha. And have you guys faced any difficulty, in regards to your sales members on your sales team giving you pushback for, certain activities, anything like this? We have a member of the audience who is having some struggles with some of his reps making excuses, around cold calling and whatnot. Have you guys faced any, as managers, any adverse, sort of pushback from your reps on certain types of activities, or, just from COVID in general, blaming COVID for this, COVID for that, sort of a thing?
Well, I think in this environment, we're going to have some of that. Everyone has, hey, I can't do this because of COVID, or I can't do that. I think the benefit to it is really trying to make sure that your reps have the flexibility. And ultimately, you're going to have people that abuse the system, as they say, and try to take advantage of things. But as an example, I've got a rep that started in January, and of course, he didn't even get a chance to really build his relationships, before COVID hit. So all of a sudden, he's working from home and trying to reach out to customers that he really had no connections with. So, he could have used the excuse of, hey, I don't know anybody, I'm not going to call anybody, but he was actually one of the people that had the most touches out of the Southern California group consistently, because he was taking that opportunity to reach out to anybody and everybody, because, I sat down and told him, look, they don't know you. So if you flub a line, if you say something that's a little awkward because it's just not what you're used to, since you're just starting your role, it's okay. You're not destroying relationships by reaching out to them and trying to connect and introduce yourself. And I think it's worked in his benefit, because he's been able to make those connections over the phone, and probably in a larger quantity than he would have in the field, because he can make a lot more phone calls in one day than the property visits he can make in a day.
Understood. So, and have you seen that, Victor, be for your team at the very least a differentiating factor for the reps who are doing better than the others? Is it the number of touch points you've seen be a difference maker, or is it something else?
I think it's a combination. Number of touch points is always going to be key. You're going to see more results if you reach out to more people. But I think one of the strong points that I think have helped the success of the reps that have been in the field for a while are the strength of their relationships. I think when you've got a customer's cell phone number and can text them and say, hey, I'm checking in on you, want to see what's going on, see if there's anything I can help with, that relationship oftentimes will transcend everything else. And so, you may get a call from somebody who you don't know, but you're more apt to respond to somebody who can text you on the phone and say, hey, in some cases, hey, I'm just checking to make sure you're healthy, make sure everything's going well with your property, see what's going on. Those I think have been benefits to our sales reps, is those relationships that they're building have really helped push that business.
Gotcha. And flipping it over to you, Rob, any additional thoughts or comments on this topic?
No, I mean, so just I saw the question, cold calling, breaking the ice. So what we do focus on when it is a brand new customer and it's a cold call, you need to show the value that you're bringing up front, right? So you're not just there to check in, to say hi. If it's a brand new customer, you need to show them why it's important for them to listen to you, right? What are you going to say that's going to benefit them? And with all, COVID, typically it's been around for Ferguson, at least, it's the PPE, right? It's the Jansan, it's the wipes, it's the, how can we help you protect your property, protect your residents, and that sort of thing. So speaking to value first and then giving them reasons why they should listen, that's really helped on the cold calling front.
Awesome.
And I think on that, sorry, Matt, I think part of that is also differentiating yourself from the competition. We've got some strong competitors out there that have done things very well for a number of years. And I think we've been able to come in and as I said earlier, our purchasing team has been aggressive, and we've in some cases paid extra to bring product in for customers. And so it's really helped our team in that sense, because oftentimes when one of our larger competitors didn't have a product, we can come in and if they're asking the right questions and getting to the crux of what the issues are, finding that there's a lack of product available to them, and we can come in and rescue the situation, it makes us out the heroes. And I think we've grown our customer base significantly because of that. We've been able to add customers that, like I said, we're only buying one category. Now they're buying more through the line because they've seen not only that we could support their needs, but are able to experience our customer service on top of that.
Understood. No, that's awesome. So we're going to transition now, everybody, to the next topic. And so we're going to launch poll number 2 now. And this is going to be around, how have your territories been affected by COVID-19? We'll wait a second for the poll to pop up. Choices here are, have they grown, have they shrunk, or have they more or less stayed the same? And are you redistributing or reconfiguring your sales team at all? Has your company made cuts? Has your team grown? Is it about the same? Have you just redistributed your team, but with the same number of reps? That sort of thing. And so Victor or Rob, whoever of you want to take this one first, I'd be curious to see how territories have been affected in your division at Ferguson.
Sure. So yeah, territories really have not been affected. We have everything as it has been, and as we mentioned in the previous question. So it's not necessarily the territories, but it's how we are approaching the customer base. It's what we are doing because of COVID, how we can help our customers, how we can help the properties. So again, territories are still the same, headcount's still the same, things are good. And as Victor mentioned, we started small and we've been growing, and we still have room for tremendous amounts of growth by taking business from competitors. So yeah, luckily we're in the spot where if anything, we're continuing to grow, continuing to probably hopefully add more headcount as we transition out of the COVID times. But no, everything's pretty much stayed the same.
Gotcha. And then Victor, on your side, I'm assuming it's probably the same sort of a picture, or any difference on your end?
Yeah, no, I actually just added a person to my team. We've had some natural attrition as a division. We've had some attrition, people leaving and coming and whatnot throughout prior to and even with. But we've been fortunate in that our division was not really impacted heavily by a lot of reduction in force. There were some cuts done through the organization in other divisions because of just the reduction in business. But as a whole, in our division, we've actually come out pretty well, and so I think we've been fortunate in that realm, and because of that, we haven't needed to necessarily adjust. Now, it doesn't mean our reps aren't approaching their territories differently, but that's just part of the phone and everything else that they're using today.
Understood. And so, are you guys thinking long term about realigning territories at all? Are they starting to feel small or big because, of course, not having to go out into the field as much? How do you think about all that stuff?
I think for the most part, I don't know that we'll change our territories significantly. I think because we've been on such a growth spurt, we've had to add bodies, and our territories have had to be reduced only because of the amount of business in the territory. So in essence, you take a territory and all of a sudden you're splitting into 3 because there's a significant amount of business in that. So I think looking forward, that will continue. And we'll continue to make our territories smaller, only to make sure that the workload for our reps fits what they're doing. But COVID hasn't necessarily impacted us in that way that where we've got to adjust our territories.
Understood. And as far as other lines of business at Ferguson, have you guys heard or seen any other changes in territories or strategy outside of your own divisions?
So again, for the most part, no. I mean, it's territories are set, and as Victor said, most of Ferguson is a lot, or all of Ferguson is a lot older, been in the business, 66 years. So you have territories that have been set and have history and have, salespeople calling on them for years and years and years. COVID definitely puts a speed bump in the road, but as far as having to, redistrict, reassign, they have the history. They've been there for a while. They're not really going to be changing anything. And as Victor said, for us, we've been in, the facility supply side going on, 6 years now. So with so much tremendous room for growth, we have a territory that fits one person perfectly, and then you keep adding more and more business, and it becomes too much for them to handle, and then you got to add someone else, right? So that's what Victor was talking about before, and yeah, luckily we're in the stage where once we get through this, we'll continue to add people and continue to enjoy.
Awesome. Well, that wraps up the second poll and the second topic of discussion. We are now going to transition into the latter part of the conversation here, Victor and Rob, and that is around the topic of, do you think field sales is going to change following the pandemic? And so we've got a few questions coming off of this. Specifically, the one I want to start with is, is there any additional technology you've used or adopted for your team since COVID has hit? And do you plan to continue using any of this technology afterwards?
Yeah, I think it definitely is going to change the approach. I think a lot of reps have, especially historic sales reps who've been in the field and done field sales for decades in some cases, I think they're realizing the power of the phone. And we've always, in the field, you've always used your phone to call back to headquarters and to connect with customers occasionally. But I think with the environment that we're in today and the technology that we've got the ability to connect with a customer easily. And whether that's text or FaceTime or even just a phone call, it really has changed. The ability of a customer or of a rep to connect to a customer. So I think that will change. And I think even the older reps that maybe weren't as tech savvy are now having to tap into some of that. And so I think it's definitely going to change the perception of what sales reps feel is effective.
Yeah. And on top of that, I think one of the major changes is just going to be around safety, right? Before, we didn't really think about the social distancing, the handshakes and, multiple handshakes. And, now I think there'll be more of a focus on safety. whether it's, I doubt we'll be wearing masks all the time, right? But hand sanitizer for sure, the washing hands constantly. I think people understanding what could happen and being aware, and then just us driving the point home that, safety is always the number one concern. It's all about your safety. And if ever you're in an instance where you're not feeling safe, then you can excuse yourself and then follow up with phone calls, emails, and then it's, going to be on us, management, just to ensure that they understand that, and then be, providing the proper PPE going forward.
How do you, Victor and Rob, how do you foresee the strategy and approach of when to go and visit changing post-COVID when everything is back to normal? Do you think that your reps are going to go into the field less often? Do you feel like they're going to prioritize accounts differently, because they could be making calls during this time? How do you see that changing?
I think it's definitely going to change. I don't know that reps are going to stay in the office more. I think people that are in outside sales tend to be in outside sales because they like being out in the field. We all have office hours and office days and things of that nature. And I think, but I think the technology aspect is what will change. I think, tapping into being comfortable in something like a Zoom meeting or a Teams meeting, I think that adds an element of, hey, I don't need to go and do a face-to-face meeting. Let's do a Zoom meeting where I can present to everybody at their properties and not have to bring everybody together into one consolidated event. So I think there's a lot of things that will change as far as the reps are concerned. But again, I think field reps are field reps, and they want to be out and about talking to customers.
Any thoughts on your side, Rob, for that?
No, I agree. I've been going out recently and meeting with everyone, just testing the water, seeing how they feel, face to face, over the phone, or in Zoom meetings when lots of people are there. People can be guarded and not necessarily share their true feelings. But I've been going out and having one-on-one meetings with them, socially distanced, and for the most part, everyone's feeling comfortable with the sales calls. They are, again, making the appointments. They're not just showing up. Again, bringing face masks with them, so in case someone there doesn't have it. So as we open back up, I think it'll get to more of, the business as usual type of thing with safety top of mind.
Gotcha.
And I think a lot of it will be customer dictated, because we won't be able to visit a customer that says, hey, I don't want people just knocking on my door. I think we'll have a select group of customers, just like we do today. There are customers that we go to that, I was with a customer yesterday that they opened the door to talk to us. And I was at a customer last week where he talked to us through the door. So it really is going to vary from customer to customer. And as Rob said, I think the emphasis for our team, at least, has to be the safety of them. And we've allowed them to dictate their day based on that. If they feel safe, with the increase in everything going on, especially here in LA County, if you don't feel safe visiting a property, then don't visit that property.
And Victor, you guys both brought up the Zoom meetings and Microsoft Teams meetings, things like this. I'm assuming you're doing a lot of that nowadays, and I'm just curious to know, how much of that are you doing?
I think there was more of it initially. Now, as we've kind of put our field back, or our sales team back in the field, at least until we get shut down again, there's been a little bit less of that. I've actually been able to go out and connect with my team and visit customers with them and things of that nature. I think initially the only thing we could do was Teams meetings. Teams is what we use. And so it was a great tool for us. It was a great avenue for us to connect with our teams as a group. We would do our happy hours, we would do our coffee meetings, whatever it may be. And I think it helped. But I think more than anything, it helped us learn to use that tool as a valuable resource.
Understood. And we've got another question here from the audience. Any thoughts, successes, negatives on using third-party office space to meet with customers, like a Regis or a WeWork or something like this? And have you guys done that at all?
I've not had to do that. I don't think it's a big thing for us. I think again, I think it's going to be customer dictated. If a customer says, "Hey, we don't want to meet on site, but we'll meet you at your location," and you need to have an office space where you can hold those meetings, I think it's a great asset. But again, I don't know that it's going to be a necessary evil necessarily.
And then, as Victor said, I think it's going to be, customer driven. It's asking the right questions to find out what they're comfortable with. And if, they're comfortable with that third-party meeting site, then, amen. That sounds like a great idea. It's just making sure you ask the right questions. It's all about finding out their comfort level, what's best for them, and then just adapting, whether it be, a Zoom meeting or a third party or just a phone call. So.
Understood. And so one more question, or the next question for you all is, how has COVID changed the way you coach your reps, right? And you guys both manage pretty large teams in the field. How has that coaching changed since COVID has hit?
I think a lot of what we've done is it's again changing their mindset, making sure that they're not stuck in that same routine that they've been following, because it's a different environment, and making sure that they have the right tools, feeling that flexibility that they to approach a customer differently, because we are in a different environment, and unfortunately we're someone that may have led with plumbing, that's not going to have the impact that we need today. And so we may have to lead with a different thing. And so as far as us actually coaching them, I think our tools like Teams and Zoom have been great for us to connect with our sales reps, but being able to go back out in the field and do the ride-alongs and kind of sit with them and figure them out, feel them out, is always going to be key. And so that's going to be everlasting.
Yeah, and so it's not necessarily coaching. I guess it's a form, but it's more about goals and keeping motivated. So, we have a goal of pre-COVID, 10 to 15 sales calls, face-to-face sales calls or check-ins a day is what our goal is. And with COVID, obviously, we can't do the face-to-face. We've been working from home. So what we did, we adapted and adjusted and said, okay, so now instead of 10 to 15, we want to hit 40 check-ins a day. And those check-ins obviously aren't going to be face-to-face, so they're going to be emails, phone calls, text messages, right? A call where you're bringing value. You're showing, checking in with the customer, making sure things are good. Oh, and by the way, look how we can help you, right? So we adapted and changed that way, setting the goal to 40 a day. And then we also instituted a contest, and it was district-wide, and it was whoever could get the most MMC check-ins, first and second place, whoever got the most MMC check-ins for the week got, X number of points to be used for purchasing, goods, items, those sort of things. So that really helped provide more incentive, right? The competitive juices flowing, and it was a great contest, and we had great results from that. So
that's awesome. Yeah, it's especially exciting for us to hear. And so have you seen sort of the same productivity levels, Victor and Rob, from your teams, or has it increased, has it decreased? Because like you said, Rob, you moved from about 14 calls a day to about 40 touch points in a day, and I'm curious to see how that's affected things.
Yeah, I think we've, this whole situation we've seen ebbs and flows. There have been weeks where we've seen some huge numbers, and then there have been weeks where things have kind of waned up. So it really is a mixed bag. And again, we understand that this is a situation that is very unique, and a situation that in some cases is emotionally draining. We've had to, make sure that we're focused on the emotional health of our associates, make sure that we're talking about that, because that is something that is a concern. There are oftentimes, we have reps that are living alone and quarantined in some cases by themselves, and that is tough on them, tough on your mental health. to be alone all that time. So I think it's, it's just one of those things as we've seen those ebbs and flows, I think we've been a little more lax with it because I know that the situation is a very unique one.
Yeah. And, speaking to productivity, I've had a couple, I know Victor's had a couple as well. Over the past couple months, even though we've been in the COVID situation, I've had a couple people that had record months. Now they were newer, right? These aren't people that have been, in the industry for 5 years. One had been with Ferguson for 2, the other for 1.5 years, but, had record months in sales. So, being able to add, to show the value and provide solutions has helped.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, that's good to hear. And then talk us through, how you used to pre-plan, your team used to pre-plan, for COVID, before COVID, and then after, right? So how has their planning strategy changed at all, if any, in terms of how they go about their day, how they go about their week, that sort of thing?
I think the biggest change in their plan really has been being able to see a customer. In the past, they planned their week, and as they went along, things happened, people were available. But now, as Rob mentioned earlier, the big push is, hey, make sure you're connecting with the customer, not just rolling in, because you want to know that they're going to be available, A, and B, that they actually will allow you to come on the property. Every place is different. And I went to the City of Hope as an example, and you had to go through a temperature check, and they had to give you a little tag to make sure that you had cleared everything. So every customer is going to be a different environment, and so you have to take that into effect, and it affects your planning, because you can't just plan. I'm gonna visit these 10 customers, because 3 of those 10 customers may not want you on their property right now. And so I think that's the effect that we're going to see, at least in the short term, is they're going to have to make sure that they're reaching out to customers, because we don't want to be that guy that pops in and, then Rob and I get a phone call saying, hey, your rep is just showing up and we can't have people on site. That's what we don't want.
That makes sense. Yeah. And then just, opening it up to broader thoughts and feelings about the future of, field sales. Victor and Rob, how do you see field sales changing over the long term? Do you feel like it'll become more of a blend with inside sales? Do you think it'll become more of a hybrid model? And, is there anything else that you'd like to add on the topic?
Yeah, so I don't necessarily think in the long term it's going to be changing. I think what it has made everyone realize is the power behind the technology, the power behind being able to reach out, whether it be FaceTime or Zoom, or not necessarily always having to be there face to face to add value, to bring value to a customer and help them out. And on the other side, it definitely showed, some of these customers, you get a lot more out of them with those face-to-face calls, and we'll probably say the majority of them you'll get more. So I think in the long run, really all this is going to be doing is making sure that everyone now keeps safety, front of the line, making sure you always have the proper PPE and you're aware of your surroundings more. Long run, I think we'll be close to back to normal, with always safety number one.
Yeah, and I think some organizations will see some changes. I think the fact that we can grow our sales being in an office, I think that for some organizations will be an eye opener. I think inside sales has always been a strong aspect for us, and I think we've, even within us, I think we'll grow that aspect of our business. But I think I think some of the organizations that are out there that maybe haven't been focused on an inside sales aspect of their business, I think that will change, because I think they're seeing that, hey, I can touch 40 people a day as opposed to having a guy out there visiting 10 people a day. And if you can do that, as Rob said, the in-person sale is always going to be the better sale. You're going to get more out of someone when they have that face-to-face connection. But being able to open the door and do an introduction, and in some cases get the ball rolling with a sale over the phone is going to be a game changer. And I think that will change to some degree, and it will affect some organizations because they're going to see that value in that inside sales group is more than, hey, it's just someone taking calls from a customer as a customer service thing. So I think there's definite changes coming at some sorts.
So it sounds like, Victor, that you imagine a world where inside sales is working a little bit more harmoniously with outside sales in the sense of, business development and generating leads and generating touch points, while the folks in the field are effectively going out and doing the same job they've always been doing. And like you said, it'll be a better sale because of it. It's just, obviously that sale being based on trust and face-to-face. And so would you agree with all that, Rob, on that side of things?
For sure. Yeah, for sure. And to add on to that, I think what this is also going to do is allow the sales reps in the field to value their time more, right? So understanding that a face-to-face sales call is always going to be best, but if you can take a piece of marketing material and reach out to 40 new customers, in a cold call type fashion, whether it's a mass text or email or just sitting home and calling them. If you can hit 40 as opposed to 10 and get basically the same results, that's going to show more value for their time, being able to touch more people and bring value. I think that this is helping with that as well.
And we've got the final poll up there. Everybody, we are going to share our poll results here in just a moment, and we will get a chance to see what the audience thinks. All right, so for the first question, have you made any adjustments to which customers you are focusing on? Looks like the big winner there was they're spending more time with fewer larger accounts. That makes sense, right? If you're going into the field, you're spending time with customers who need it the most, are going to produce the most value for you, and vice versa. And second up was have made other adjustments, but just not based on size, which I think, Victor, was what you were talking a little bit about as well. It wasn't based on size necessarily, more like the needs have changed of the customer. So very, very interesting. And then we're going to move to the next poll result for number 2. Have your territories been affected by COVID? It looks like overwhelmingly most folks had said territories have stayed more or less the same. I wonder if that'll stay true sort of through the next 6 to 12 months or not. We'll have to wait and see. But it looks like a lot of companies have stayed the same. And then the second half of this question was, have you redistributed or reconfigured your sales team at all? And again, pretty status quo there as well. It looks like most folks had chosen our team is about the same size. So very interesting to see all of that. Then we have the third poll. And question here was, do you think outside sales is going to change post-pandemic? And again, an overwhelming response to some aspects of inside sales will replace field meetings, but there will always be a need for in-person meetings. And again, Victor and Rob, you guys both harped on that a little bit. It's always going to be a better sale in person. It'll be about more so, generating, sort of leads and business development ahead of getting those in-person visits. And then finally, we'll move to the last poll. And this question was, do you think outside sales is going to change post-pandemic? Actually, I believe this is the same question. Some aspects of inside sales will replace field meetings, but there will always be a need for in-person meetings. Very similar question. Awesome. So that is the gamut of the poll questions. Thank you, everybody, for responding to these. Very interesting to hear the responses. And with that, we're going to wrap things up here. So I want to thank you and Victor and Rob first and foremost. It was really great having you today. Appreciate the time as well as the insights and food for thought during these constantly changing times. It was a pleasure.
Thanks, Matt.
And
thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys. And so just to let the audience know as well, we are going to put out a lot of collateral from this discussion early next week. We'll email everybody who jumped on this webinar today the results sort of the polls, as well as some collateral we put together around how to get back into the field safely and how to think about returning to the field. And then we're going to do one last poll here, I believe, and it's going to be a question for us, more or less. Would you be interested in participating in any of the following things? Joining a LinkedIn community specifically for field sales, attending a return to the field roundtable with direct conversations with other sales leaders and strategies, and then lastly, being interviewed for sales leadership content. We're constantly interviewing sales leaders across the field sales space for our blog, as well as promoting these sorts of materials. And we do have a large following online, and so we'd love to get in contact with and share a conversation with other sales leaders out there, just like Victor and Rob. And I think I've got a couple of questions here. And that's about it, everybody, right? So lastly, I want to thank everybody in the audience for jumping onto this today. Enjoyed having you. I hope that you can all stay productive and in good spirits as we still figure this all out together. And again, we'll be sending this recording out to everybody as well as the collateral early next week. And thank you, everybody, for attending.